I'll give it a chance. I'll give it a chance. You know, I'll give it a chance.
Buying Skype for too much. On May 10th, 2011, Microsoft, led by CEO Steve Ballmer, announced it was buying Skype for $8.5 billion, the largest acquisition in the company's
that's
history.
the worst buy I think I've ever
Ballmer
seen.
said Skype would transform communication across Windows, Xbox, and mobile. But the numbers were already shaky. Skype had only 170 million active users and was losing money every quarter. Microsoft rushed to integrate it. Code clashed. Servers lagged. Calls dropped. Meanwhile, Apple rolled out FaceTime. Google pushed Hangouts. WhatsApp exploded. Suddenly, Skype's shiny blue logo looked very old. Very fast. Inside Microsoft, team...
Doesn't. Skype, all gamers use Skype. Everybody uses Skype. People swap to other voice things, Hangouts like that. Maybe for companies, whatever. But a big portion, I think, was like people like you and me.
quietly grew in the background, offering features Skype couldn't match. By 2017, Teams had absorbed Skype for Business. By 2021, consumer Skype was fading from relevance entirely. Microsoft had paid $8.5 billion for a service it would later replace with its own product. Fox gives Star Wars rights away. On April 13, 1976, 20th Century Fox sat down with George Lucas to renegotiate his pay for a strange sci-fi movie the studio barely understood.
Pause.
Lucas agreed to take...
Chat, Skype was so bad. If you had Skype, you would get DDoS. If you were part of any big community at a high rating of any game, and you had Skype, because you need to have Skype, you have to talk to your teammates, right? You would get, your IP would get fucking attacked every so often. Bro, you could legitimately not play World of Warcraft, actually, at a high rating, because you would get DDoSed every fucking high lobby with a bunch of fucking cucklords. It was unplayable.
A smaller director's salary. In return, he asked for merchandising and sequel rights Fox considered almost worthless. Executives shrugged and signed. The movie was released on May 25th, 1977. The world changed overnight. Kids begged for toys Fox didn't control. Action figures sold out nationwide. By 1978, merchandise alone had earned over $100 million. Then came the sequels. The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. Then the prequels, The Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, and Revenge of the Sith. Billions poured into Lucas's empire. Rights Fox had traded away for pocket change. Funny how the studio that doubted Space Wizards ended up giving away the entire galaxy. HP buys Autonomy disastrously. On August 18th, 2011, HP announced it was buying Autonomy for $11.1 billion.
Look at that.
A price so high that analysts blinked twice. CEO Leo Apotheker insisted it would reinvent HP, turning a printer and PC giant into a sleek software powerhouse. Wall Street wasn't convinced. HP stock dropped 20% the next day. Like a printer jam, no one could clear.
I got worse for
Once
HP.
the deal closed, the alarm bells got louder. Internal reviews found revenue
HP computers are bricks. Bricks.
gaps.
Are we
Auditors
good?
flagged irregularities. A year later, HP took an $8.8 billion write-down, erasing nearly the whole purchase. Executives pointed fingers. Autonomy's team denied everything. Shareholders stared at the bill, wondering how a blue-chip company tripped this hard. HP wanted a transformation. Instead, it got one of the most expensive oops moments in corporate history. Atari loses the Nintendo deal. On June 1st, 1983, Atari executives met with Nintendo to finalize a U.S. distribution deal for the Famicom, soon to be the Nintendo Entertainment System. Atari was still the giant of gaming, pulling in over $1 billion in annual revenue. Nintendo was rising fast, but needed a powerful American partner. The agreement was nearly locked. Atari would distribute the console, and both companies would share profits. Then a fight broke out over Donkey Kong. Atari accused Coleco of showing the game on its Atom computer, believing Nintendo had double licensed it. Nintendo argued the contract allowed it. Confusion turned into frustration. Frustration turned into silence. By late 1983, the deal collapsed as the video game crash hit Atari hard. Nintendo moved forward alone, launching the NES in 1985 and selling over 60 million
This console, cinema.
and selling over 60 million units worldwide. Atari watched the future unfold on a console it almost owned. Google buys Motorola, then dumps it. On August 15th, 2011, Google announced it was buying Motorola Mobility for $12.5 billion, calling it a bold move to protect Android with a massive new patent library. Larry Page said the deal would supercharge Google's hardware ambitions, but the numbers soured quickly. Motorola was losing over $1 billion a year. Its phones lagged behind Samsung and Apple, and its market share kept shrinking. Google tried rebooting the lineup with the Moto X and Moto G, but margins stayed thin and competition moved faster. Inside Google, tensions grew as the hardware division clashed with the Android team.
Mobile for corporate, like you said, and just other non-traditional usage of comms, they still do really good, no? Like, radios and shit and whatever. Like, people use that, no?
By January 29th, 2014, Google sold Motorola to Lenovo for $2.9 billion, keeping only the patents. More than $9 billion had evaporated.
Oh.
The purchase meant to protect Android ended up proving Google didn't need a phone company, just better math. Selling the Beatles' music rights by accident. On March 27, 1969, the Beatles learned that their music publisher, Northern Songs, was being put up for sale. Without their control and without their full knowledge, John Lennon and Paul McCartney each owned about 15% of the company. They tried to buy it back, but media tycoon Lou Grade and his company, ATV, moved faster. On May 21, 1969, ATV won the auction for £1.5 million, gaining control of most of the Beatles' song catalog. The band lost the rights to Hey Jude, Yesterday, All You Need Is Love, and hundreds more. Years passed. In 1985, ATV put the catalog up for sale again. A young Michael Jackson bought it for $47.5 million, outbidding Paul McCartney, who had once advised Jackson to invest in publishing. Jackson later merged the rights into Sony, creating a catalog worth hundreds of millions. The greatest band in history ended up paying royalties to everyone, except themselves.
What?
NBC sells its Hulu stake. On March 4th,
Wait, they what?
to everyone, except them hundreds of
They
millions.
paid it.
The greatest band in history ended up paying royalties to everyone, except themselves. NBC sells its Hulu stake. On March 4th, 2019, NBC Universal quietly agreed to hand Disney full operational control of Hulu, even though NBC still owned 33% of the platform. The move seemed harmless. NBC would keep its share and sell it later. But Disney moved fast. Just 2 months later, on May 14th, 2019, NBC signed a put call agreement allowing Disney to buy that 33% stake for a minimum value of $5.8 billion, no matter how big streaming became. Then the streaming boom hit. Hulu passed 48 million subscribers. Ad revenue rose. Streaming libraries became the new real estate of Hollywood. Meanwhile, NBC launched its own service, Peacock, and began pulling shows off Hulu, shrinking the very platform it would later have to value for Disney's payout. In November 2023, Disney bought NBC's entire stake for $8.6 billion, giving NBC a check and Disney a monopoly on Hulu's future. NBC thought it was offloading a side project. Instead, it funded Disney's streaming empire and paid rent on the road it
Yeah,
built.
but chat, because I feel like Disney was gonna take over. I mean, yeah, I guess, but chat, Disney was gonna win anyway. Like their catalog is huge, right? That they have all the rights to and shit. I'm sure some of the other licenses were gonna fall off at one point, right?
Yahoo buys
Like-
Broadcast.com for $5.7 billion. On April 1st, 1999, Yahoo announced it was buying Broadcast.com for $5.7 billion, one
What?
of the largest deals of the dot-com boom. CEO Tim Kugel promised it would make Yahoo the future of online video.
Oh,
At
yeah,
the
no,
time,
definitely.
Broadcast.com had 570,000 weekly users, a huge number for the early internet. It streamed sports games, radio stations, and the occasional grainy video clip, just enough to look like tomorrow. But tomorrow arrived slowly. Most users still had dial-up. Streaming a single video could take minutes, not seconds. Bandwidth costs ballooned. Content partners
yeah.
demanded more money. Inside Yahoo, integration
AOL
stalled and
times.
the platform began to fade. By 2002, Broadcast.com, once worth billions, was quietly shut down. Mark Cuban, who co-founded the company, walked away a billionaire. Yahoo walked away with a very expensive lesson. Turns out the only thing that streamed perfectly
Wait, he sold garbage. Wait, he sold garbage knowing he was garbage.
1999 was Yahoo's money. Xerox ignores the personal computer. On December 9, 1979, Xerox invited a young Steve Jobs to tour its Palo Alto Research Center, offering him a look in exchange for early access to Apple stock. Inside, Jobs saw the future, a graphical interface, a mouse, and a desktop screen that ordinary people could use. Xerox scientists had built it years earlier. Executives barely noticed. They focused on copiers, not computers. Jobs did the opposite. He brought the ideas back to Apple and began shaping the Lisa and the Macintosh. When Xerox finally tried entering the PC market, it spent over $20 million developing machines no one wanted. Meanwhile, Apple and Microsoft turned Xerox's forgotten invention.
Let's be honest. If you were to revert time and have one of the top employees over there, right? One of the lead people say, "Oh, yo, let's log in on computers or whatever," they probably wouldn't even have done it. So
Inventions into billion-dollar empires. A company that invented the window ended up watching everyone else
It's a big ship that they
climb
probably
through
wouldn't
it.
even want to do anyway.
Disney gives Oswald away. On March 4th, 1928, Walt Disney arrived in New York expecting to renew his contract for Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, the character carrying his young studio. Instead, distributor Charles Mintz told him Universal owned Oswald completely and would cut Disney's pay from $2,250 per cartoon to $1,800. Disney refused. Mintz revealed he had already hired most of Disney's animators away. Walt walked out with nothing. No character, no staff, no rights. On the train ride home, frustrated and nearly broke, he sketched a new character with round ears and a brighter grin. On November 18th, 1928, Mickey Mouse debuted in Steamboat Willie and became a global sensation. Oswald stayed at Universal. Mickey built an empire. Disney lost a rabbit, but made the mouse worth billions.
Wait.
Became a global sensation.
Chad, what rabbit did they lose? Am I brain dead? Oh, Oswald? What even is that? Is Oswald a rabbit? Oh. I guess. I don't even know.